What's up, everyone? It's CHGO Tavern Style. I'm Kevin Kaduk, head of content.
I'm Cody Delmendo, host of CHGO Cubs.
Today's topic is who is having a worse season, the Chicago White Sox or the Chicago Cubs? Now, by the numbers, it's the White Sox. As we speak, Cody, they are 27 and 77. That's like mind-boggling. 50 games under 500. It's not even August 1st yet. But you've been walking around the office saying it's the Cubs. I want to hear you make your case.
Listen, like you said, by the numbers, the White Sox are having a worse season. You can argue that they're certainly more embarrassing, but you can look up plenty of numbers, stats, where the Cubs and the White Sox aren't even that far apart. Sean tweeted from CHGO White Sox last night that they lost 10 in a row twice. Last team to do that, 2021 Chicago Cubs. That has nothing to do with 2024 Cubs, but it's kind of this general feeling of Chicago baseball the last 5 years, honestly. But in general for this season, the Cubs are one of the worst teams with runners in scoring position offensively, right down there with the White Sox. Dansby Swanson, you can literally put his slash lineup and then put the White Sox as a team slash lineup, and it's not very much different. It's that bad, okay?
Yeah.
The Cubs came into this season with projected to win somewhere between 83 to 85 games. And those are fair projections. Me, Luke, and Ryan each sat on our show and said, 85 to 90 wins could certainly happen, and we thought that it would because we thought they would take a step from last year. And it certainly hasn't. It certainly just hasn't happened. They haven't even been the same as last year. They've actually been worse than last year. And when you're talking about expectations, you're talking about disappointments, you're talking about even in some ways embarrassment. The Cubs, at least the White Sox, were expected to be bad. They were absolutely expected to be bad. There were national outlets who said the Cubs would win the NL Central. All right. One of the guys from MLB Network said that the Cubs were going to finish in fourth. In all of Cubs Twitter this year, or at that moment, I can't remember the guy's name, but he used to work in St. Louis. After he said that, all of Cubs Twitter just erupted, said that that's a complete joke. Of course, you're saying that because you used to work in St. Louis. And unfortunately, I have to sit here and say that he was right. Right now, the Cubs are in last place with a $230 million payroll, basically. It's an absolute joke. An absolute joke. It's the most disappointing, embarrassing team of my adult life. Yeah. I turned 18 in 2009. They had some bad years right before Theo Epstein came in. Sure, back then, it was always expected the Cubs weren't ever going to be good outside of 2007, 2008, 2003. And, they really disappointed in 2004. Then you have 2019, even that team, it had higher expectations, and they just missed the playoffs because they sucked the last 2 weeks of the year. They didn't have a closer for half the year. They signed Kimbrel because Ben Zobrist's wife decides to cheat on him, so he leaves the team. That opens up money for the Cubs to finally spend and get a closer, which didn't even work out. All right. But at the end of the day, to me, this team is so much more disappointing and embarrassing than any of those teams because you're in a new era with a new front office since 2021, and you have nothing to show for it. We're in year 4 of the Jed Hoyer era, and you have nothing to show for it except for perhaps you won some trades. But how can you even say you won those trades when you haven't done anything on the field to show that you are on your way to winning?
I agree with that. And you have the NL Central, which should be a winnable division. And I argue the NL Central and AL Central should be divisions that are dominated by both Chicago teams, just sheerly because of market size. And neither team has ever been able to do that, which to me is frustrating. So, look, you obviously where the Cubs loss is hard. And I think the way they've been losing has just been so, they've been getting good pitching performances and just can't put runs against the plate. So I agree with that because nobody came in to this White Sox season thinking they were going to be good. Those projections started with a 6. And maybe if everything went right, it'd be low 70s. But I will say this. If they go out and beat the 1962 New York Mets, and I know some White Sox fans, and possibly myself included, are rooting for that because if you're going to be bad, let's be bad. But if you do that, no one was expecting an all-time bad season out of them. And then if you combine that with losing 2 absolute studs, 2 building blocks, and I don't know if this is the right decision. I don't think it's the right decision to trade Garrett Crochet or Luis Robert Jr. But if you go in and you lose 2 of those guys who to me, are worth buying tickets for, worth paying,
I would agree.
whatever. And then you get, okay, you're the punchline forever until another team goes out and loses 122, 123 games.
That's fair.
To me, then that would be the worst season.
And just to put this in perspective, Cody, because I don't think you understand how bad the White Sox are. Since 1961, there have been 1,700 seasons played by a Major League Baseball team. So, take 1961, times that by whatever, times that by 30, right? There's been 17,000 baseball seasons played. The White Sox have the second worst winning record of any of those teams. There is only the 1962 Mets that are ahead
really
of them
incredible.
so far. It's pathetic.
But I was saying off camera, Sean, I still remember either talking to you or Vinny or Herb, I don't know who it was, but I was like, man, they are really setting this team up for failure. I mean, just the guys that we're bringing in. And I remember when they signed Eric Fetty, and I thought, man, this isn't a great signing. He's actually been one of the bright spots, which is kind of amazing. And if you're able to flip him for actually usable pieces, then that's a win. But man,
Also,
bad.
Cody brought up that their highest paid player, hitting basically what the White Sox are hitting as a team. That's sad. The White Sox as a team are hitting as bad as a very bad baseball player.
Right.
All 24 players besides Luis Robert Jr. are hitting that poorly.
I wish I would have had the foresight to go in and bet the Sox to have the worst record in Major League Baseball, because you could get, I think they were at 10 or 12 to 1 at some point. Like, they were not expected to be the worst team in baseball, and now they're just totally out kicking everybody to that finish line.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you're not wrong. I think when I look at it from the Cubs side, I just don't think I've ever been so annoyed and so defeated by a team like this. And maybe it's just because when I was in college and all that, I just never expected anything. But when you win the World Series 7-8 years ago, there's a standard that you set. It's a precedent you set.
I think we thought it was going to be the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox breakthrough in 2004. They win again in 07, 2013, 2018. And the Cubs never got anywhere close to doing that.
Well, yeah, they didn't do much the rest of what we call the golden era. And then, I bought into what Jed Hoyer has sold us after he traded Yu Darvish for 18-year-olds and traded all the guys that gave me one of the happiest days of my life at the trade deadline of 2021. And here we are, 2.5 years later, and we got nothing to show for it except for, we have the second best ranked farm system in baseball. Congratulations, Chicago baseball fans. We have that.
Well, but I still think that's something to hang your hat on, because I think with baseball, it's so defeating. I think some part of the reason with the White Sox fans are defeated is because you just went through this. It failed almost, not immediately, but I mean, it didn't last very long.
Yeah, like a year and a half.
And now it's now you got to do it all the way over again. So at least there's some sort of foundation being poured. Now, whether or not it bears fruit, could end up being the White Sox again. But I know, with the Bears, we launched this network in 2022. The Bears were pretty close to the bottom, and they've been able to turn things around, and we haven't even celebrated our third birthday yet. And the other 4 teams in town have not been able to do that, and I think with the Cubs and White Sox, it's going to take longer. But you're not the only one, disappointed person in this building. We had big plans at CHGO for the Cubs too. We started up Friday 120 Club and thinking, hey, this thing is going to be awesome and it still is awesome because it's Friday at Wrigley Field. But we thought, hey, we're going to be out there in July and August as a race towards a division title, and that hasn't been the case.
Yeah. So I guess in closing, absolutely, the White Sox are definitely more embarrassing. The 2024 White Sox are more embarrassing. Hell, I can certainly make the argument that the Cubs' success over the next 5 years could be better than the White Sox, just because the White Sox highest paid contract they ever given to is to one of the best or one of the worst players in baseball today, Andrew Benintendi, and Jerry Reinsdorf. They have billboards up again, this time for the White Sox instead of the Bulls, for him to sell a team. Rightfully so. I'm a Bulls fan. Believe me, I feel their pain in that aspect. So when you talk about moving on with the future, I still feel better about the Cubs than I would the White Sox. That said, though, it's again, the standard. The Cubs haven't been meeting the standard for years, and fans are tired of it, and I'm sick and tired of it, man.
Cody Delmendo, Sean Anderson, Kevin Kaduk. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.